The 12th Annual World Congress on Industrial Biotechnology, the world's largest industrial biotechnology event, is returning to beautiful Montreal, Canada in 2015. The Bio World Congress, linking chemistry, agriculture, and biotechnology to develop new value chains. So mark your calendar now for July 19 to 22nd, because this is the one event you cannot afford to miss. Join over 1,000 other high-level attendees from 700 companies and over 40 countries.
So, we work with all our clients, we encourage them to attend and to exhibit. We're exhibiting ourselves in 2014 for the second time. I'm sure that we'll be back in Montreal, and the Bio World Congress really is the event in the industry.
Top business executives, world-class scientists, biotech investors, and government policymakers, all stakeholders in building a vibrant, sustainable, bio-based economy.
Yes, we are excited about going to Montreal. It's a wonderful city. It has many great attractions. They're very supportive of life science conferences. It will be in the summer. It's going to be beautiful, so people can do business and also enjoy all the things that Montreal has to offer. So yes, we're very excited about next year.
The 2015 World Congress will feature 5 high-level plenary sessions and 8 breakout tracks, an exciting exhibit hall, and clean tech investor sessions, presentation of the prestigious George Washington Carver Award, and more than 1,000 one-on-one partnering meetings.
There's hundreds of companies here partnering. The partnering rooms, one-on-one here, I think we've had 40 meetings in 2.5 days on one-on-one meetings, and out of those 40 meetings, I'd say at least half are fruitful.
The 12th Annual World Congress on Industrial Biotechnology in Montreal. A great once-a-year opportunity to take your program to the next level.
Well, thanks for joining us here for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, along here with Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher. And Phil, busy week agriculturally speaking in Washington this week. Saw a lot of action on things, as well as setting up for more action next week. And Phil was saying before we filmed it's going to be a busy week next week. Can't necessarily disagree, but let's focus on the task at hand right now. Yeah. First thing being, we saw action this week on what's been dubbed the Pompeo bill. Technically speaking, I believe the title is the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act, something to that effect. Correct. Moral of the story is the House Agriculture Committee cleared that bill, and it appears that the House Energy and Commerce Committee is going to waive their regulatory rights. So that bill appears to be headed to the House floor next week. Now, Phil, this is not a bill that is new to us by any means. We've been seeing this around for a while. What has changed throughout iterations of this bill that led it to the point where we may now be seeing it get to the floor of the House?
Okay. The bill was first introduced more than a year ago in order to stop states from passing laws to require labeling of foods that contain genetically engineered ingredients. Didn't go anywhere in the last Congress, came back, was reintroduced this time around. There's been a major effort by the supporters of this bill to broaden support and to make sure that various business sectors in the food industry and the agriculture sector would not object and would in fact have a reason to support the bill. So the bill that came out of committee has been through a number of drafts behind the scenes before. In fact, the last one, the latest version was actually written last weekend. We got our hands on it on Monday. The committee voted on it on Tuesday. What this bill does, it would block states from imposing labeling requirements on genetically engineered foods. This would stop a law that Vermont passed and that is scheduled to take effect next year if a court doesn't stop it. Would do that. It would also set up a new labeling certification program run out of the Agriculture Department for foods that are labeled as non-GMO. And there were a number of changes that were made to that part of the program to address some concerns that the maker of organic foods had. So, and there's some other things. There's also some language in the bill that would require the Food and Drug Administration to finally write a definition of what is a natural food. That's something there's been a lot of argument about. At one point, this definition would have, by law, included biotech products. Mm-hmm. The way the bill is written now, that would be left entirely up to FDA.
And so we've got a House version of this bill looking at a vote on final passage,
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that will be achieved next week sometime?
But it looks like we're told late next week, Thursday-ish is what we're being told. Then the big question, it looks like it'll probably pass the House. The big question is what happens in the Senate. There's not a Senate bill yet. Hasn't been introduced yet. They're still looking for a Democrat who would co-sponsor, and it appears that there may not be a Democrat to sign on to that bill. However, lobbyists tell me that when they've talked to Democrats on the Senate side, they say, we don't want to sign on to this. It's a little too controversial, but we support what you're doing. And that's important because if this were to wind up on another bill, like a big spending bill in December, something like that, if you've got enough Democrats who say I'm okay with that, I'm not going to stop the bill, the entire piece of legislation because of the labeling issue, it could go through and get to the president. And the administration to this point has been pretty supportive in actually helping in drafting this bill.
So certainly more action to come on the Pompeo bill next week, and we'll be sure to keep you up to date on that information as well. Phil, while I've got you, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Senate appropriations process. Saw a little bit more action on that front today, specifically funding Department of Agriculture activities on the Senate side. Saw some action in the House previously, but what can you tell us about what the Senate side of life did today?
Right. Well, the Senate Appropriations Committee got its bill ready. This funds the USDA, as you say, and the Food and Drug Administration. It's pretty similar to the one that the House has brought out. There are some important differences. One of them is that the committee today adopted an amendment that would extend for another year the ban on horse slaughter. They also adopted an amendment that would require labeling of salmon that is genetically engineered. One of the senators from Alaska, Lisa Murkowski, this is a big issue because of the salmon industry up in Alaska,
right.
And she at one point said she knew there were concerns among farmers that this was setting a precedent of labeling a genetically engineered product. She said, well, it's different. Corn doesn't swim. Fish swim. Fish can escape and go where they're not supposed to. Corn won't do that. So we'll be hearing more about that. That's not in the House bill, so that will be something that House and Senate negotiators are going to have to hash out later.
Now, when you say it's not in the House bill, are you speaking of the GMO labeling of salmon, or are you speaking of the swimming ability of corn?
No, I'm talking about the House Appropriations bill. It's not in the labeling bill that we were talking about that came out of the House Agriculture Committee actually deals with regulating genetically engineered plants. So
it leaves salmon out entirely in that.
And the salmon are at FDA, and things at FDA in that respect would stay where they are. The interesting thing, though, is that FDA's position on labeling of genetically engineered foods is that there's no legal basis for doing it because the genetically engineered plant or the fish or whatever is not materially different than its conventional counterpart. And if it isn't, then you can't, there's no reason to label it.
Fair points all around. And also, before we let you go, we just want to mention that today, we say today, we're filming this on a Thursday afternoon. Today the House passed what it's calling the Drought Bill that provides does some action having to do with the California Drought. Not going into too much depth because to be quite frank, it's not really going anywhere. There isn't a lot of support in the Senate, and we've seen a statement of administrative policy from the White House saying that they don't support the bill. They say it doesn't attack kind of the real issues. But House Republicans, you made an effort. Good job. We've got a bill that is supposed to do something on the California drought. So we tried, and it's not going to go anywhere, it doesn't look like. So that's going to about do it for this week for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. We thank you for watching as always. For Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.